topic. The subtopic is the Asiatic man, the father of civilization, proven by biblical history. And I'm going to give you that. So without further ado, let me set this prayer in line and we're going to jump right into it. And this is just my prayer for positivity. I pray that I think peace, speak peace, and I am peace. I pray that I think truth, speak truth, and that I am truth. I pray that I think love, speak love, and that I am love. I pray everything I attract. I pray everything you attract carries high, harmonious vibrations and intentions. May the light within me, may the light within you serve as a beacon for those that need it most. Shalom Aleichem, Aya Asha Aya, Assalamu Alaikum. All that Moorish. We got to get out of distant things and get into the synchronicity. Things were just interpreted wrong, Moors. So if you don't understand science, we must be willing to study. If you study your Circle 7 Quran, it tells you about the Hebrew God. I mean, Allah is you. I mean, I hope we understand what I'm saying, Moors. Even in the biblical scriptures, God and man is one. Read Revelation 3 and 9, Revelation 2 and 9. People try to connect that to just when they say the Jews are not the real Jews and all that. But they only giving you one perspective. Read Psalms 82 and 6. Read John 10 and 34. I mean, it's certain things that we have to connect. We have to connect. I hope we know that, Moors. So, in your Circle 7 Quran, this is school. I'm not here to convert anybody. I know who I am. And I know I'm a Moor. I don't get into no color. My brother was killed by a Negro black color. So if you just all caught up on that, that's a problem. When the people go around quoting European, that's a problem because European has nothing to do with your nationality. I know so many more from Europe. Period. If you research and people just be posting books and not reading them. When I'm speaking on the Ancient and Modern Brits by David Mack Ritchie. Come on, man. Y'all got to connect the dots. So get your Circle 7 Quran. So you know I'm not making this up. Chapter 11, verse 43. I'm going to read this again. The Hebrew prophet is the rising star of wisdom, defied. He brings to us a knowledge of the secret things of Allah, which is you. And all the world will hear his words and glorify his name. So then, if it's the Hebrew God, what is his name? Next, you priests of the temple of Kavvistu, stay, be still, and listen. When he speaks, he is the living oracle of Allah. Come on, Moors. In the mysteries of the silent brotherhood of the East, divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali. I can read this to you again. This Hebrew master is the logos of the Holy One, the circle of human race, the seven of all time. Moors, what's all in your Quran if you read it? I go to the introduction, the genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of events and life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, Africa. I mean, all through the scripture, the creation and fall of man. All of it talking about Yeshua, but he's giving Jesus, and you got to understand why. Life and works of Jesus in India. The friendship of Jesus and Lammas. Jesus reveals the people of their sinful ways. Jesus attends a feast. Jesus spake of the unity of Allah and man and to the Hindus. Jesus at Bharatha. Jesus teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to obtain eternal happiness. Life works of Jesus in Egypt among the Gentiles. I can go on and on. All through the Circle 7 Quran. So what's wrong is people are promulgating things wrong. People are promulgating things wrong, Moors. Period. I hope we study this. If you don't know the 18 missing years of Yahshua's life, when people talk about the 42 laws of Mayat, that's great. I'm with that too. But it's also more when you study the Mama deeds. When you study the science. When you study the Mama deeds. People get so caught up in the wrong thing and they don't study their Circle 7 Quran. They just buy stuff and post pictures. If you study your Circle 7 Quran, this is the 18 missing years of Yahshua, Jesus' life. Why you think certain preachers don't talk on the genealogy of Yahshua or Jesus per se? All through the Circle 7 Quran is talking about the Hebrew God. Y'all tripping, man. That's a lack of wisdom. I just gave you chapter 11, verse 33. The Hebrew prophet is the rising star of wisdom defied. He brings to us a knowledge of the secret things of Allah. The secret, you are Allah. And all the world will hear his words and glorify his name. You priests of the temple of Kavistu, stay, be still, and listen. When he speaks, he is the living oracle of Allah. Come on, man. Even in our silent brotherhood of the East, what is this talking about? The Hebrew master is the logos of the Holy One, the circle of the human race, the seven of time. Yes, it's 42 laws of Mayat, but where do the 42 laws of Mayat come from? When you get things right. The book of knowledge, when we talk about Maimonides, when people say 10 commandments, 42 is more. Why? Because the Maimonides or the Ramba, the Mishnah Torah, with matchless clarity and authority, describes the transmission of the oral law, the Torah, the Shibboleth, through the generations and the resultant development of the Mishnah, the Talmud, down to his own day. I hope y'all follow me, Moors. It didn't give reason for writing the Mishnah Torah in plain language. The oral law might become known to all, a complete listing of the 613 mitzvahs, the 613 mitzvahs, the precepts, divine commandments. I mean, I can go on and on, Moors. I can go on and on with the wisdom. I can show you more. I'm going to continue to show you. Rabbi Ford in a turban. Turbans were commonly used in black spiritual churches when people dissing things because you getting the wrong perspective. You let somebody just tell you something. Rabbi Ford in a turban. Turbans were commonly used in black spiritual churches and signified mystical ease when used by black religious magical workers. Come on, man. Stop playing. Stop playing, Moors. Connect the dots. We're not no Al-Islam. This is American Islam. I self-law and master. Arm, leg, arm, head. A God is not under no religion. But when we talk about this biblical Bible, this so-called follower of Yahshua, we have to break things down. Yes, we understand the etymology of Christian is Cretan, somebody maimed. But the secret to the biblical text is they're hiding the nationality. And so I got to break this down before I jump into Masonry and Adapt. Because all I do is see is more is dissing. And they're not understanding because we're not studying. You're not no Muslim, no Al-Islam. American Islam is manifestation of one. So get your pens, man. Because I got to go over this. Because my empress was like, please show the people what it's all about. You must understand this. You stand away from something. They want you to stay from it because it's talking about you. The Bible gives the first and only true account of the origin of mankind. It is the only book containing an accurate record of the progress of man towards civilization. And it is indispensable reference of all searches after the real fact of the birth of humanity and its progress toward the civilization of today, Moors, beginning with his creation. That's the exo and the eso. It is the only authentic record of man. Authentic because it's firsthand. It's firsthand. Everything else is interpretations. When you get the 1599 Geneva Bible, it don't say nothing about Ethiopia and Africa. It says more. Period. It's not a copy of something or a scientific or literary review, but a dispassionate record of man's creation and progress, untrimmed, unshaped, and unvarnished to suit prejudice. It would not be a complete record if it did not show with the rest of them the origin of the Asiatic man. Some like to say the black man. And woe for all these pinnacle thieves. It shows that he, the Asiatic man, the so-called black man, because I'm part of the gods of earth too. In gods of earth, the black man, the Asiatic man is God. He's the father of the civilization. You have to understand context when a person is using a word. You have to, when I say words have duality, Morris. So the Asiatic man, the black man per se, has many misrepresentations by prejudiced historians and lecturers. It has been and is now quoted that Ham, and I repeat, it's now quoted that Ham, the father of the black man or Asiatic man, was cursed by his father, Noah. Now, in regard to this incident, let us take the biblical record for it, because you're supposed to study all this. And anywhere, not any person that's not totally blind with prejudice will be convinced by reading in the book of Genesis, the 9th chapter, from the 20th to the 27th verse inclusive, that Noah did not, for he could not curse Ham, although he did in a fit of intoxication, like most Negroes do, pronounce a curse on Canaan, the son of Ham. But I repeat, in passing, Moors, I might mention that Canaan was never inconvenienced by the curse of Noah, because he was the father of 7 prosperous nations, Moors. Foremost amongst them were the Canaanites. That's why you read in the biblical Bible, when you see man's interpretation, I think it's in Deuteronomy, research this, where it says a Canaanite can interpret the kingdom of God. You got to understand what people add things in. You got to know what the Novus Testamentum is. But they were the Canaanites, the Phoenicians, and the Sidonians. The Sidonians sprang from Sidon, who was the first son of Canaan. According to Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 15th verse, these same Sidonians or Sidonians are the men described from black men or Asiatic men, whom Solomon ordered Hiram of Tyre to engage to do the skill hewing and designing of the timberwork of Solomon's temple. Solomon declaring that these Sidonians, black men, Asiatic men, were the only men possessed with anywhere near sufficient skills. We talk about the master masons to take charge of and successfully complete the artistic timber work on his Solomon's temple, Moors. So get your pens, because I'm going to interpret these scriptures the right way, because this is thought, not his words. The only why people diss this stuff because they don't know the essence. And you let somebody that stepped on your neck tell you what this scripture is about. 1 Kings, the 5th chapter, the 6th verse speaks very plainly on this fact, Moors. Solomon knew that the black race, the Asiatic race, was a superior, not an inferior race. Why, per se? He married Pharaoh's daughter. 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter, the 1st verse. The 7th chapter, the 8th verse. Also the 9th chapter and the 16th verse, Moors. Solomon's wife might have been as dark-skinned or even as black, per se, as he was. For history shows that Egypt had 2 full-blooded Ethiopian pharaohs just before and during the reign of Solomon. According to Herodotus, we can use their pen. The names of the 2 Ethiopian or the 2 Asiatic were Sabaco, S-A-B-A-C-O, or Moors, Sebikos, S-E-B-I-C-H-O-S, and Sitos, S-E-T-H-O-S. Do some studying. So Solomon surely got an Ethiopian or a Negro or a black woman for a wife. This naturally increased the proportion of Negro Asiatic blood in the veins of the true king of the Jews. Viewing the progress of the immediate descendant of Ham, Moors, we learn that a curse laid upon one by a mortal of that day was as foolish and ineffective as it is today. The story about this curse, Moors, also the story of the black man, the Asiatic man, who contended that black skin and woolly hair is a disgrace, has, according to the Bible, Moors, no black skin and woolly hair is a disgrace. According to the Bible, Moors, no foundation. So you see how we can destroy stuff when we study the right way? So speaking of black skin, the greatest brain work and wisdom ever given to this world was given by the so-called black men, Asiatic men with that skin tone, or at least in those whose veins the greatest portion of blood was Ethiopian or Negro blood, per se, Asiatic blood. As to the assertion in King Solomon, you can go and research the Songs of Solomon, the 1st chapter, the 6th verse. Solomon's dark skin should cause no surprise, Moors. Why? Because his mother, Hittite, was also the widow of Uriah. See 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter, the 9th and the 10th verse. The Hittites are the descendants of Heth or Hith, and Hith was the 2nd son of Canaan. See Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 15th verse. You see what I'm saying, Moors? This is a genealogy book. You get connotated by some fool with a fez or a turban on that's not telling you the truth. You're not no Arab Muslim. We don't operate under that. A God has no religion. This biblical book is all about you. As to the woolly hair, Moors, Jesus, Yahshua, all in our Circle 7 Quran, what do it talk about? If you study, what's in your Circle 7 Quran? The 18 missing years of Jesus, Yahshua life. All through it. So when Moors talk about they Moors and they ain't studying your Circle 7 Quran, you better stay away from them fools. Period. Daniel, the 7th chapter, the 9th and 10th verse. Now, if Daniel's prophecy is true, Moors, and I'm talking to my so-called Hebrew Israelites, I love all my brothers. We all one. We all one. Stop limiting yourself to a misnomer. One nationality and many tribes. One nationality and many cultures. I'm not here to strip nobody of their culture. But if Daniel's prophecy is true, that when Christ left this earth, what did he have? Woolly hair. He naturally will return with woolly hair. He's not going to come back different. That's a replacement. When we talk about Antichrist, anti mean replacement, Moors. And the pictures of him today are erroneous conception of him by those artists. When we talk about Caesar Borgia, the Italian replacement. When we talk about Alexander the Greek under Serapis Christos, replacement. The grand old book, the Bible, does not show that God ever turned a man black to disgrace him for his sins or anything else. You letting people connotate you. But this same Bible does show that God's power did turn a man white to disgrace him because of his sins and said that his seed would be likewise forever. Yes, facts are stubborn, Moors. Things are often very disagreeable, sometimes even sickening. And by reading carefully, Moors, the 5th chapter of 2 Kings, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th verse, Moors, many of our highly so-called civilized brethren whose ancient ancestors disgraced them will suffer an alarming fit of nausea. Among the many low cowardly things that have been said and done against the so-called Asiatic Moor during this Christian era, the interpretation of their Christian era, one poor benight individual published a joke in a book form in which he claims that the Negro, the Asiatic man, is a beast. And when I show you all through the Bible, you got to know what type of beast he's talking about. Just like 666. And what analogy of that? 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. You don't even know because you let somebody connotate you. The poor fellow tries to be serious and no doubt thinks he is offering at least some proof in his assertion. These are the people that we run to for clarity. It has nothing to do with color because I know Moors that preach garbage. They're trying to tell you that you're a Muslim. They're trying to tell you that you don't study all law. They're trying to tell you that you don't study the biblical scriptures. That's BS. If you don't study the biblical scriptures and all law, then you operate on your own understanding. How can you say you're a Moor and you say you're from the tribe of Judah, the lineage of David? How? How? That's stupid if you don't study. It's crazy. But the fact remains, however, that regardless of what has been said and done against the Asiatic man, against the Negro per se, and of whatever might be said or done against us in the future, he is the only man who can trace himself back through the ages to his origin and find monumental evidence of his unequaled greatness, his prowess, the laurels and great honors he won, the things that he created and perfected, which have a direct influence on our civilization today, Moors. The Asiatic man, the black man per se, I boldly assert, was the father of civilization, born in the land of Egypt. Your Bible tell you this. And the different branches of science and art were simply transmitted to other races, which as the ages have rolled by have only been enlarged and to some extent Moors improved upon. Even the modern American Negro per se has proven that he is original. For instance, Moors, as a tonsorial or artist, he has no superiors, and no Negro was ever known to enter a barber college to learn the trade of cutting hair. Negroes per se inherited the sweetest, most musical voices, Moors. And if you have not heard a Negro quartet or chorus after they have arranged the harmony of a piece that they are about to sing, you have not heard, Moors, what is the best and sweetest in vocal music. As instrumentalists, not forgetting the many others, I simply mentioned Blind Tom and Blind Bone. The fame of these two men needs no comment, Moors. What they displayed is that talent that was handed down to them by their genes through centuries, by their Asiatic, by their so-called black ancestors. As for the Negro, for the Asiatic being original, why the Negro, and I'm using their words, has given great America the only claim she ever did or ever will have to a national music, Moors. God honored the Asiatic man. God honored the black man, per se. You go around saying that you're connected to the sun. When you get 1,000 miles closer to the sun, what color is the sun? Black. You talk about melanin. What is melanin? Carbon. What color is carbon? Black. Everything in life have carbon. So everything has black in them. Y'all tripping. God honored the black man by allowing some of his Ethiopian blood to flow in the veins of his only son, Jesus, Yahshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ, whatever you want to call it. And I unhesitantly assert that Jesus, that Yahshua, would in America be classified as a Negro, a black man, an Asiatic. I make this assertion only on the authority of the biblical scriptures, Moors. According to which Jesus, Yahshua, was born out of the tribe of Judah. You say you were more. You say you're from the tribe of Judah, the lineage of David. That's what you say. You say you're from the tribe of Judah, the lineage of David. That's what you say, right? That's what our paperwork say, right, Moors? Judah had only 5 children, and they were males. 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, and the 4th verse. 3 by his first wife, and 2 by his second wife. 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, the 3rd and the 4th verse. And both of his wives were descendants of Canaan, a black man who was the son of Ham. Right? I know y'all know. Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 6th verse. Tamar, Judah's second wife, bore him 2 of these sons, whose names were Phares, P-H-A-R-E-S, and Zerah, Z-A-R-A-H. 1 Chronicles, the 2nd chapter, and the 4th verse. These 2 names appear in the genealogy of Jesus, or Yahshua, of Jesus Christ, in the book of Matthew, 1st chapter, the 3rd verse. So it is no trouble to see that Judah, of whom Christ was to come, started out by presenting to the world children of Canaanite women who were Hamite descendants. Now, the so-called Virgin Mary, of whom Christ was born, was beyond all doubt a woman of the tribe of Judah. Come on, man. And even every Bible reference proclaims that Jesus, Yahshua, was to spring from where? The tribe of Judah. Right? Come on, man. Genesis, the 49th, the 10th verse. Hebrew, the 7th through 14. Revelation, the 5th chapter, the 5th chapter, the 5th verse. St. Paul tells us in Romans 1 and 3 that Jesus, Yahshua, was of the seed of David according to the flesh. According to the flesh. David is the 10th man named from Judah in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, Yahshua the Messiah. Our Circle 7 Quran talks about all this. 1st chapter, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th verses. Added to this, David's great-great-grandfather, Booz, B-O-Z, was born of the woman Rahab, R-A-H-A-B, who was a direct descendant of Ham. Matthew, the 1st chapter, the 5th verse. This also shows that David, one of God's greatest soldiers, was one who successfully led his people, and one who had Negro blood in his veins, Moors. The Bible history is full of honors for the Asiatic, for the so-called black man. Jethro, the Ethiopian or Negro father-in-law of Moses, who was the author who first employed that, which is today our judicial system, considerably twisted, right? And revised to meet the changing conditions of civilization. You can see that in Exodus, the 18th chapter. This chapter tells of Jethro's visit to Moses and how he gave Moses the foundation of what is today our system of graded courts for pronouncing judgment. Again, Moses, the Hebrew, because Hebrew is still English, said that she called him Moses because she drew him out of the water. Exodus 2 and 10. And besides, black men, Asiatic men educated Moses. At any rate, he received what education he had in schools of the Asiatic people in Egypt. Acts chapter 7, verse 22. So there is nothing remarkable in the fact that our historians, all our educators, who we were, they are the descendants from the fathers who ruled Egypt centuries ago, and with our great wisdom laid the foundation of learning, Moors. We got to connect the dots. We got to connect the dots, Moors. Traditions of antiquity points Memphis and Babylon as the foundations of human wisdom. An early queen of Egypt was a descendant of the Ethiopian or the Negro race. This is concealed by some of the modern writers, Moors. Some of them going so far as to say that their skin was very black, and a few of them acknowledge that it was this black queen who placed the first fleet of warships on the River Nile, Moors. I can go on and on with the science. So the truth is that the term Caucasian, when people talk about the Caucasus Mountain, man, that's just an area. That has nothing to do with your nationality, just like Europe has nothing to do with your nationality if you study and stop just posting books. The ancient and modern Britons, those are European Moors, Asiatics. I mean, come on, man. Frank Bruno, that fought Tyson, where was he from? Europe. Come on, man. But the term Caucasian has little or no meaning as it is now used today. The word itself is a conventional term given at first by Blumenbach to designate what he considered the highest type of the human family, shown by a skull from Mount Caucasus. Just like when I see Moors quoting eugenics, that's pseudoscience. Research what a hybrid is and research. That ain't you. When we attempted to trace those who would claim the name as an expression of their superiority, we find this type has disappeared, Moors. There is no pure specimen now in existence. And if we ask what is white, Moors, we can only say that it is a term used to designate the absence of color. That is all, Moors. And no sign whatsoever of race integrity. We have already indicated that science and investigation point to the fact that primitive man, when I talk about the signs and symbols of primordial man, but primitive man was not so-called white. It is no new theory, Moors. It's just been suppressed. This is nothing new. But it has seemed convenient for the Saxon or the Albion or even your Negro preachers or even some Moors to let it rest as much as possible in discreet oblivion. Come on, Moors. Y'all know this. Y'all know what I'm saying is truth, and I want you to study. God but faintly revealed the puzzle of civilization to Noah and his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japhet. When people talk about they were three different colors, that is the stupidest thing ever. Remember, you can't interpret a Hebrew word to English. It can mean 10 different things meaning on the context. Genesis, the 9th chapter, the first 7 verses, and it became their duty to start the work on the first moves of the puzzle, as well as to create nations. He who would begin from the first move and works the matter out to perfection. Ham, the father of the black man per se, located in Africa. Africa was his homestead, to speak. David, the psalmist, created or credited Ham with this territory in 105th Psalms, the 23rd and 27th verse, and also in 106th Psalm, the 22nd verse. I go on and on. Cush, Mizraim, Hut, Canaan were the first sons of Ham. Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 6th verse. And these 4 sons included Nimrod, the grandson of Ham, were the first to start the work of the problem of civilization. Cush, located in South Egypt on the river Nile. He became the father of the Ethiopian as well as the father of the Cushites through Nimrod, who located on the southern part of the Euphrates River. I can go on and on. It requires no laborious research to establish the fact that Cush was the father of all Cushite nations. I mean, I can go on and on with the wisdom. You're getting connotated. You're getting connotated. So, now let's get to some science, and I'm done. Because I don't think more studying. I really don't. I just think we like to listen to stuff and post stuff, and it's no factual to it. When I quote from this Bible, when I quote from this Circle 7 Quran, I don't think Moore is reading it. I heard one more talk about this written in code. I said, what code? English? What does our Holy Quran say? It says the genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons are for all of those who love Jesus. This is the writings and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. Dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons, you can set your house in order and your children will learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these, I gave you that. The lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity, as I am a prophet and a servant is worthy of his hire. You can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And with the time appointed by Allah, which is man manifested as God, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims in America. All authority and rights of publishing of this pamphlet of 1927. The industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamites, Canaanites, that what your Bible tell you, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in a portion of Egypt. Come on, Moors, y'all got to know this. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. You feel me? The lessons and the unity of life, death and birth of the establishment of Matthew's lessons, the ministry of death. After the feast, the homeward journey, life works of Jesus in India, the friendship of Jesus and Lamis. Jesus reveals the people of their sinful ways. Jesus attends a feast in Bihar. Jesus spake on the unity of Allah and man to the Hindus. Jesus and Bartha. Jesus teaches the common people. What's the argument? What's the argument? You getting it wrong. The Hebrew prophet is the rising star of wisdom defied. He brings to us a knowledge of the secret things of Allah, and all the world will hear his words and glorify his name. So what is the Hebrew prophet name then? If this is what our prophet telling us, we got to stop. He said we got to love instead of hate and connect the dots. This is what we should be teaching. All of history, so we can know you ain't no Muslim. You ain't under no religion. A God has no religion. But when we talk about this science, we better know who we are and where we come from. So let's talk about this Master Mason or this Master Mason. When I show history and I say, Moors, you got to get into history. When we talk about the so-called chosen people, it's all us. Everybody is you. When we talk about the turbans, Rabbi Ford in a turban. Turban was commonly used in black spiritual churches and signified the mystical east when used by black religious magical workers. I'm telling you, man, it's right there in your face. It's right there in your face. And you arguing. You arguing all day with bull crap. We connect the dots. Rabbi Mordecai Herman and the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews in 1920. Rabbi Ford and his choir, everybody, they taught the truth, who they were. Look, you see the brothers? 19, you see it? 19 in the early 1900s. You see the American flag and the so-called Israel flag. This before Israel was created by a state, by the U.S. You got to get with science, man, and get out of your feelings. Master Masons, just like in our Circle 7 Quran in chapter 5. What does it say? That's why I be laughing at Moors. When I say I ain't speaking no gibberish, I'm speaking, you supposed to know this. Let me show you. Let me get to this. This remind me, where we at? Of our workman tools. Chapter 5. One day, and as he was bringing forth the tools for work, he said, and I quote, These tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thought and where we build up character. We use the square to measure all our workman tools. Okay, that's one part. But also, Moors, if you understand this science, if you're a master mason, the Committed and Adapt manual and the use of our carpenter tools, reconstruction of the ancient and most exalted Grand Ka, the Kaaba of Allah. When I talk about the Kabbalah, when I talk about things that are spelled Kabbalistically, you just being tricked and connotated. The Baphomet is spelled Kabbalistically. The Temple of David. I give you the lectures. It's science. These tools remind me of the one we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thought and where we build up character. And you run around with some spookism. Master Mason, the workshop of the mind. I'm finna go here, go again. I'm coming from the insomnia, the great Masonic secret. I'm giving you master keys. The workshop of the mind, our Holy Quran, Circle 7. I just gave it to you. I showed you in our Quran. These tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind. We use the square to measure all our lines to straighten out the crooked places of the way and make our corners of our conduct square. We use the compass to draw circles around our passions and desires to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. We use the axe to cut away the knotty, useless, and ungainly parts and make our character symmetrical. We use the hammer to drive home truth and pound it until it is a part of our everyday essence. We use the plane to smooth the rough and uneven surfaces of joint and block and board that go to build the temple of truth. The chisel, line, the plummet, and the saw all have their uses in the workshop of the mind, of the hippocampus. And this 12-step ladder with its trinity of steps, faith, hope, love. On it we climb up to the dome of purity and life. And on the 12-step ladder we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of the perfected man, of the perfected man, of the perfected man, of the perfected man. This is you. This is you. I will teach you this, man. The workman tools, our apron. As an entered apprentice, you were taught to wear your apron with the top turned up. This is what the 33 and 33 degrees masonries. I don't care if you Prince Hall. I don't care what color you are. I teach in the temples. I teach because I teach on truth. My brother was killed by a Negro black color, so I don't get caught up in that dumb mess. I'm a teacher, and when I go, I teach. Most Moors don't want to hear it. They think they know everything. So I go where I want. I go where people accept me. And I'm a teacher. I'm a theosophist. I'm an alchemist. I'm a spiritual a teacher. I'm an adept. But as a fellow craft, you were taught to wear it with the top turned down and the left corner turned up in the form of a triangle to form a pouch. What it represents of our ancient brethren, who as the hearers of stone carried the working tools of a fellow craft. As a master mason or mason, you are entitled to wear it in the form of a square to designate you as a master or overseer of the work. The trowel, the working tools of a master mason, are all the implements of masonry, indiscriminately, but more especially the trowel. The trowel is an instrument made use of by operative masons to spread the cement, which unites a building into one common mass. But we, as free and accepted masons, are taught to use it for the more noble and glorious purpose of spreading the cement of brotherly love and affection. That cement which unites us into one sacred band of society, of friends and brothers among whom no contention should ever exist, save that noble contention, or rather emulation. Who can best work and best agree, Moors? The pot of incense is an emblem of pure heart, Moors, which is always an acceptable sacrifice to deity. And as this glows with fervent heat, so should our hearts continually to glow with gratitude to the great and beneficent author of our existence for the manifold blessings and comforts we enjoy. The beehive. The beehive is an emblem of industry and teachings, the practice of that virtue to all men, Moors, from the highest Sephra in heaven to the lowest reptile in the dust, Moors. It teaches us as we come into the world rational and intelligent beings. So we should ever be industrious ones, never sitting down contented while our fellow creatures around us are in want, especially when it is within our power to relieve them without inconvenience to ourselves. That's why I do my work that I do. I want to eat something and have you eat trash. The same thing that I eat, I give it to my brethren. If my brother is sick mentally, spiritually, and physically, I have to help him. That's what I teach. I teach alchemy, that you are the gold. I teach the healthy eating and working out. I teach all this. It's a synchronicity. So when we take a survey of nature, we view man in his infancy more helpless and indigent than the brutal creation, right? We got to know this. Constitutions guarded by the tiller sword. The book of Constitutions guarded by the tiller sword reminds us that we should ever be watchful and guarded in our thoughts, words, actions, particularly when before the enemies of masonry, even bearing in remembrance those true Masonic virtues, silence and circumspection, the anchor in the ark, the sword in the naked heart, the 47 problem of Euclid. Most of the Moors that's our Prince Hall, they don't know what I'm talking about. Because you're only a level above freezing. You're 32 or 30. That's a level above freezing. That's when rain freezes. That's snow. You a snowman. That's why they wear their fez in clandestine. That's why they have the Asiatic woman with the sword over the top. Because they accepted something that's not theirs. The 47th problem of Euclid was an invention of our ancient friend and brethren, the great Pythagoras, who in his travelers through Asia, Africa, Europe, was initiated into several orders of priesthood and raised the sublime degree of a master Mason Moors. This wise philosopher enriched his mind abundantly in a general knowledge of things and more, especially in geometry or masonry. For this subject, Moors, he drew out many problems and theorems, and among the most distinguished, he erected this, which in the joy of the heart he called Eureka, in the Grecian language signifying, I have found it. And upon the discovery of which he is said to have sacrificed a hecatomb or a hackatomb. It teaches Masons to be general lovers of the art and science, Moors. The hourglass. The hourglass is an emblem of human life. So behold, Moors, how swiftly the sands run and how rapidly our lives are drawing to close. We cannot without astonishment behold little particles which are contained in the machine, Moors, how they pass away almost interpret just simultaneously, and yet to our surprise in short space of an hour, they are all exalted, Moors. I hope we understand that what I'm saying. We don't get caught up in bull crap. The scythe or the scythe is an emblem of time, which cuts the brittle thread of life and launches us into eternity, Moors. So behold, what havoc the scythe or the scythe of time makes in the human race, Moors. If by chance we should escape the numerous evils, the incident to childhood and youth, and with health and vigor arrive at the years of manhood, yet withal we must soon be cut down by the all-devouring scythe of time, and be gathered into the land where our fathers have gone before us, Moors. Setting maul, spade, coffin, and spring of acacia or acacia. The Holy Bible, Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. The altar of a master mason is the same, but now there is more than the candidate has thereof. Discover, Moors. Both points of the circle are bare, which is to teach us to never lose sight of the Masonic application of this useful and valuable instrument, which teaches friendship, morality, and brotherly love. The marble monument. This is the marble monument dedicated to the memory of our slain Grand Master, Harem of Beef, consisting of a beautiful virgin weeping over a broken column. Before her a book open, in her right hand a sprig of acacia, in her left an urn. Behind her stands time, unfolding and counting the ringlets of her hair. The beautiful virgin weeping over a broken column denotes the unfinished state of the temple. Likewise, Moors, the untimely death of our Grand Master Harim Abif. The book opens before her that his virtues there lie on perpetual record, Moors. The sprig of acacia in her right hand, the timely discovery of her grace. I hope you understand the analogy, the parable, the symbology of what I'm saying. The aura in his left hand, that his ashes were therein safely deposited to perpetuate the remembrance of that amiable, devoted, and exemplary craftsman. Time unfolding and counting the ringlets of her hair, Moors, denotes, it's an analogy, it's symbology, that time, patience, and perseverance will accomplish all things, Moors. The sublime degrees. See, I'm giving you the keys. I've just taught a lot of my Prince Hall Masons. They don't know this because a lot of this stuff, they're not given the keys because they're only 32 and 33. When the Europeans pass 32 and 33, after they come out the Blue Lodge, what do they cross over to be? Shriners. They put on the fez. They become practicing Muslims. They study Al-Islam. They know the science. Why you think what's on their fez? Al-Islam. Albia. I mean, not Albia, but Mecca. All your science. So the sublime degrees, they wear their fez in clandestine. So teaching of the 31 masters, face your fears or they will climb over your back. To know a thing well, know its limits. Only when pushed beyond its tolerance, it is true nature seen. Do not depend only on theory if your life is at stake. Logic moves blindly. The slave makes an awful master. Never choose a course just because it offers the opportunity for a dramatic gesture. Awakening of your true self. This is 120 times 3, Moors. Time does not count itself. You have only to look at a circle, and this is apparent. When you look at that circle, you think time is stopped. No, Moors. It's moving so rapidly. What does a mirror look at in the mirror? You will know, Moors. You will be looking at yourself. As you looking at yourself, the greatest relevancy can become irrelevant in the space of a heart beast. Asiatics should look upon such monuments with joy. The best music imitates life in a compelling way, Moors. If it imitates a dream, it must be a dream of life. Otherwise, there is no place where we can connect and our plugs do not fit. What's the use of a light if it's not on? The past must be reinterpreted by the present, Moors. Never follow a leader without asking your own questions. If you can't ask questions, you need to run because it's dogma. Memory never recaptures reality. Memory reconstructs. And all reconstructions change the original, becoming external frames of reference. That inevitability, it falls short. Complexity hides within complexity, Moors. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. The unclouded eye is better no matter what it sees. That's why in our science, our eye is not surrounded by some triangle. It's no secret. It can be sacred because it's dear to our heart. The writings of history is largely a process of diversion. Most historical accounts distract attention from the secret influence behind the great events. I hope you understand what I'm saying, Moors. I can go on and on, but I got somewhere to be. Pi equals 1.618 in the study between male and female. Honeybees, as in a community of bees, the female bees always outnumber the male bees. If you divide the number of female bees by the number of male bees in any beehive in the world, you will always get the same number, 1.618. This is science. Sunflower seeds grow in opposing spirals. The ratio of each rotation diameter to the next is 1.618. This is true in spiral pennicone petals, leaf arrangements on plant stalks, insects segmentation, and all this display has the astonishing obedience to the divine proportion mores. The body always equals phi or pi, measures the distance from the tip of your head to the floor. The divine, or then divided that by the distance from your belly button to the floor, and you get pi. Measure the distance from your shoulders to your fingertips, and then divide it by the distance from your elbow to your fingertips. What do you get? Pi again. Hip to floor, divide by knee to floor, pi again. Finger joints, toes, spinal divisions, all are pi. Your body is a tribute to the divine proportion mores. The chaos of the universe has an underlying order, and pi is the building block to the universe. I'll leave you with the path of the Adept, and I'm done. This path is not for everyone. When a person is give themselves a title, well, I'm Adept, man, they ain't teaching you no science. They giving you all dogma. They dissing the Bible. They dissing everything. That's not science, and I show you all in the Bible. Our religious preachers are just interpreting it wrong. It is for those who have come to realize that an inner world exists. That's the eso. Most preachers just teach the exoteric. They're not wrong. They're coming from a wrong perspective, but you must teach the eso, and you must teach who you are from the scriptures and in history. This world is as real as the world we see, hear, feel, touch. This inner world far surpasses in importance the external world of manifestation. The ability mores to recognize the difference between these two worlds is the first clue for recognizing one who is the path of an adept, ship. The adept understands that the outer world is unreal, an illusion. Only the inner world is real and true. I'm going to the esoteric. Adepts may be found playing many roles in the outer world. Did you hear me? I have to be for my people. Most of our people are in the churches. I got to be in there. I have to be in there to teach my people. I'm not here to scare our people. I got to go in there and show you that you've been taught wrong. So adepts may be found playing many roles in the outer world. They are very much like actors, mores. Adepts act out these many roles only because of another life. They live on an inner plane, which is both concurrent and coherent with the outer plane. The adept may be more accurately described as an artist rather than an actor. The adept knows the outer life is unreal, merely an illusion, an analogy, a symbology. Nevertheless, mores, the adept plays it well and consistently. Each experience in the outer world has an inner lesson to advance the disciple. These experiences are opportunities to develop courage, endurance, wisdom, similarity, desirable characteristics, mores. One of my brothers, he was like, are you on YouTube? YouTube is messing up, so I'm just recording. So it'll be uploaded on my YouTube page later on. All my stuff is free on YouTube. I don't charge. It's Kari Hakeem Goodman El Bay on YouTube. But the greatest obstacle Adept has to overcome, peace Mo, has to overcome is the immense and the pressure of public opinion, especially the opinion of the spirituality, the ignorance, and the unenlightened. How exactly does the adept differ from the ordinary person? Fundamentally, it is a difference in attitude. The adept lives to gain neither position nor honors. Rather, the adept lives in accord with the principles of an inner world. Mores. Principles unknown to the uninitiated. The disciple is always trying to develop some virtue such as love. For example, patience, tolerance. How exactly does the adept differ from the ordinary person? The adept lives to gain nothing. No, not all adapts retire from the world. Not all adapts retire from the world. We are in this world, though some may. That's just their choice. More likely, an adapt may be found mingling in the outer world and its various activities. I'm a part of this world. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a lecturer. I'm a husband. I teach at schools. I teach all science. The invitation to become an adept is only to those who desire to receive it. These are the seekers of truth. They shall find the secrets of the masters. On the physical plane, we consider the age of the body. On the spiritual plane, we consider the age of the soul. The soul on the path begins to show signs of advancements in intellectual, intelligence, emotionally, maturity. You gotta mature. If not, you're still a grown kid. Age has nothing to do with maturity. And spiritual powers. If a more tell you, oh, I don't deal with spirituality, I just deal with civics, you gotta run from that fool. If that's the case, he operating only 360, and that's his own understanding. We operate 720. Period. This advancement has little or nothing to do with the worldly age of the person. What constitutes initiation as an adept? Understand that it is an inner initiation. That's what this science is all about. Mastering yourself. Mastering yourself. Even in the biblical scripture, God and man is one. In the book of Psalms, he tells you that you are gods. I made you in my image. It opens the door to the inner world. Symbolically, it represents the opening of the door of the mind, the workman tools. What constitutes this opening? Realization that there is another life to live other than this ordinary worldly life. This worldly life seems to pale next to the inner life to which we are suddenly attracted. So the realization may be called by different names. The Hindus refer to it as the vika, or discrimination. Christians refer it to as conversions. This latter is an apt word for the experience. It is a turning around of one's life, a change in direction. In the words of one of the Christian apostles, set your affection on things above and not things of this earth. Right? I love you all, Moors. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, health, and wealth. Tomorrow I'm going to get into the science of government. Haram. Rise from your shallow grave. Peace.